Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will be looking at AQA AS Psychology 2016 Paper 1 Exemplar Answers for Psychopathology, which you need to know for AQA A-Level Psychology. I hope you enjoy this video and find it helpful. Let's get started. Please note that these answers have been produced with knowledge of the mark scheme but have not been approved by the mark scheme themselves. There are 3 assessment objectives, AOs, in psychology. In this video they are color-coded. AO1 Knowledge, purple. AO2 Application, blue. AO3 Evaluation, red and green. In AS there are 12 mark questions, instead of 16 mark questions. For the purpose of this video and to avoid confusion for A-Level, the 12 mark questions have been turned into 16 mark questions. Read the 4 definitions of abnormality below. AD. A failure to function adequately. B. Deviation from social norms. C. Statistical infrequency. D. Deviation from ideal mental health. Question 1. In the table below are descriptions of abnormal behavior. Choose the definition that best matches each description and complete the table by writing A or B or C or D in the box at the end of the statement. Use any letter only once. 3 marks. Behavior which is rare and not exhibited by many people. Behavior which does not fit the rules of expected behavior. Behavior which shows an inability to cope with everyday life. Behavior which is rare and not exhibited by many people. C. Statistical infrequency. Behavior which does not fit the rules of expected behavior. B. Deviation from social norms. Behavior which shows an inability to cope with everyday life. A. Failure to function adequately. Question 2. Describe at least one strategy that might be used in cognitive behavior therapy for depression. 4 marks. One strategy that might be used in cognitive behavioral therapy for depression is patient as scientist concept, where patients actively manage their health and mental well-being. They collect data about their experiences, symptoms, and treatment responses, similar to scientists collecting and analyzing data. Another strategy might be used in cognitive behavioral therapy for depression is cognitive reconstruction challenges the accuracy and rationality of these negative thoughts, encouraging patients to evaluate their basis on facts and evidence. They may create a for and against list for a more objective view. Reframing and replacing negative thoughts with balanced or positive ones doesn't ignore the problem but offers a different perspective. Question 3. Below are 4 evaluative statements about cognitive behavior therapy. Which statement is correct? Shade 1 box only. 1 mark. Cognitive behavior therapy. A can only be used in group situations. B allows the client some control over the therapy. C has many side effects. D does not need a trained therapist. B allows the client some control over the therapy. Question 4. Syra has a fear of cats. Her fear stops her from going anywhere she thinks she might see a cat. Explain how Syra's phobia could be treated using systematic desensitization. 4 marks. Syra must be taught to relax. An anxiety hierarchy must be drawn up, for example, saying the word cat, holding a picture of a cat, walking the street where cats are roaming. Syra works through the hierarchy, gradually being relaxed at each exposure until the most feared step is responded to with relaxation. The bond between the CS, cat, and CR, fear, must be broken by replacing the fear response with an antagonistic response, relaxation. 2 students were discussing their friend David, who has recently been diagnosed with obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. Melanie says, "It wasn't a surprise to me that David has OCD because his mum is always tidying things, putting them in order and checking switches." Emma says, "Really, I didn't know that. I always thought that people with OCD have something in their brains that makes them behave in that way." Question 5. Outline and evaluate neural and genetic explanations for obsessive-compulsive disorder. Refer to the conversation above in your answer. 16 marks. The genetic explanation of OCD suggests that OCD is a genetically inherited predisposition and vulnerability that it passed down from generation to generation through particular and specific genes. SERT and COMT genes have been found to appear mutated in individuals with OCD. SERT, serotonin transporter, gene regulates serotonin levels in the brain. A mutation causes an increase in transporter proteins at a neuron's membrane, leading to an increase in the reuptake of serotonin in the neuron, which decreases the level of serotonin in the synapse and causes mood irregulation and problems with emotional processing. Variations in this gene, such as the 5-HTTLPR polymorphism, have been linked to an increased risk of OCD. COMT, catechol-O-methyltransferase, gene regulates the function of dopamine. A mutation causes a decrease in COMT activity and can affect the breakdown of dopamine, which may influence various cognitive and emotional processes. Specifically, the Val158-MET polymorphism variant has been associated with differences in executive function and susceptibility OCD. Melanie suggests that David might have inherited OCD because his mother displays similar behaviors and may have passed on a genetic marker to him as a first-degree relative, a genetic cause. Nested et al., 2010, aimed to investigate whether there were genetic and environmental contributions to the risk of developing obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. They conducted a family study using participants with a diagnosis of obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, and their first-degree relatives. They conducted structured interviews to assess the presence of OCD and related psychiatric disorders among the participants and their family members. The study also included a control group of individuals without OCD to compare the prevalence of the disorder in families. By analyzing the data collected from these interviews, the researchers aimed to calculate the heritability of OCD and examine the familial aggregation of the disorder. This approach allowed them to determine the genetic and environmental contributions to the risk of developing OCD. They found that identical twins showed a concordance rate of 68% for OCD compared to 32% in fraternal twins. They also found that first-degree relatives have a 11.7% chance of being diagnosed with OCD compared to the general population, where the chance is only a 2.7% chance. They concluded that OCD has a substantial genetic component, with heritability estimates suggesting that genetics account for a significant portion of the risk for developing the disorder. A strength of twin and family studies is that their findings and conclusions suggest that OCD has some genetic basis. Twin and family studies have been found to show higher concordance rates for OCD compared to the general population. Research has shown that identical twins, who share 100% of their genetic material, have higher concordance rates for OCD compared to fraternal twins, who share about 50%. Research has also shown that first-degree relatives of someone with OCD have a higher chance of being diagnosed with OCD than the general population. This is a strength because it suggests that there is a hereditary component to OCD, indicating that genetic factors may significantly contribute to an individual's risk of developing the disorder. The higher concordance rates in identical twins compared to fraternal twins, as well as the increased likelihood of OCD among first-degree relatives, provide compelling evidence for the genetic basis of OCD. This understanding can help guide future research and potential treatment approaches that consider genetic predispositions. A limitation of twin and family studies is that the findings and conclusions may be due to environmental factors. The higher concordance rate found for identical twins may be due to nurture. Identical twins often grow up in the same household and share similar environments, which can make it difficult to separate genetic factors from environmental ones. This shared environment can lead to an overestimation of the heritability of a trait or disorder. As well, as the social learning theory suggests, family members may also observe and imitate each other's behavior through classical and operant conditioning. Alternatively, family members may be more vulnerable to suffering from OCD because of the shared stressful environment of being in a household or around those with OCD. This is a limitation because it suggests that the influence of environmental factors on the development of OCD cannot be overlooked. It indicates that the shared experiences and conditions of family members may play a significant role in the manifestation of the disorder, potentially confounding the interpretation of genetic contributions. There are two types of neural, brain and nervous system, explanations, neurochemical and neurophysiological. The neurochemical explanation suggests that neurotransmitters, which are responsible for relaying information from one neuron to another, are linked to obsessive thoughts and compulsive behaviors. The neurotransmitter serotonin regulates mood. Low levels of serotonin in the brain have been associated with a disruption to normal transmission of mood-relevant information, as serotonin is removed too quickly before the impulse has passed and transmitted its signal, and therefore mood is affected. Additionally, the neurotransmitter, dopamine, is thought to regulate motivation and concentration. High levels of dopamine have been associated with an ability to focus. There are 4 neurophysiological explanations. One explanation suggests that hyperactivity of the basal ganglia is linked to repetitive motor function, and therefore disturbed communication in this structure might account for repetitive behaviors, compulsions. A second explanation suggests that OCD is linked to abnormality and excessive activity in the orbital frontal cortex, OFC, also called the worry circuit, which is associated with logical thinking, decision-making, impulse translation, and the regulation of primitive aspects of behavior. The caudate nucleus located in the basal ganglia is responsible for suppressing signals from the OFC, and when this is damaged or abnormal, it dysfunctions and fails to suppress minor worry signals, resulting in the primal impulses continuing even after performing the behavior, leading to obsessions and compulsions. A third explanation suggests that OCD is the result of abnormal functioning in the parahippocampal gyrus, which is linked to the regulation and processing of unpleasant emotions. Finally, a fourth explanation suggests that OCD is linked to damage to neural mechanisms due to issues with the immune system, as a result of infections and diseases such as Lyme's disease, leading to the exacerbation and development of OCD. Emma suggests that David could have OCD due to a biological factor which would be in his brain, a neural cause. A strength of neural explanations is that there is research to support the idea that particular neurotransmitters cause OCD. Sechtman et al., 1998, found that when animals were given drugs that increased dopamine levels, their behaviors resembled that of obsessive behaviors found in people with OCD. This suggests that high levels of dopamine cause OCD. Piggott et al., 1990, found antidepressant drugs which increase serotonin activity have been found to reduce obsessive tendencies and symptoms in patients. Other types of antidepressants which do not increase serotonin activity have been found to be ineffective. This suggests that low levels of serotonin cause OCD. This is a strength because it suggests that there is empirical evidence linking neurotransmitter levels to the development and treatment of OCD. The findings from studies like those of Sechtman et al. And Piggott et al. Provide a biological basis for understanding OCD, indicating that targeting these neurotransmitters through medication could be an effective treatment strategy. This supports the idea that biological factors play a significant role in the disorder, which can lead to more targeted and potentially successful therapeutic approaches. A limitation of neural explanations of OCD is that studies supporting abnormal brain functioning have not been replicated. Aylward et al., 1996, conducted a meta-analysis that included 9 studies published between 1989 and 1995. These authors did not find empirical support for metabolic or perfusion dysfunction in the caudate in OCD across studies that used PET or SPECT. This is a limitation because it suggests that the evidence for neural explanations of OCD may not be robust or conclusive. The failure to replicate findings across multiple studies indicates that the relationship between brain functioning and OCD symptoms may not be as clear-cut as initially thought. This uncertainty can lead to skepticism about the effectiveness of biological treatments and emphasizes the need for further investigation into the neurobiological mechanisms involved in OCD. A limitation of biological explanations of OCD is that it is biologically deterministic. This means that these explanations may oversimplify the complexity of the disorder by attributing it solely to biological factors, such as genetics or neurochemistry, while neglecting the influence of environmental, psychological, and social factors. By focusing exclusively on biological determinants, this perspective risks ignoring the role of personal experiences, upbringing, and cognitive processes that can also contribute to the development and maintenance of OCD. For example, an environmental explanation could suggest that people are not born with OCD and learn the anxiety disorder through the learning process of operant and classical conditioning. This is a limitation because it suggests that OCD is primarily a result of biological factors, which can lead to a narrow understanding of the disorder. By not considering the interplay of environmental, psychological, and social influences, this perspective may overlook important aspects that contribute to the onset and maintenance of OCD. It implies that individuals have little control over their condition, potentially undermining the effectiveness of psychological interventions that address learned behaviors and cognitive processes. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Bye.